Welcome back, New Earthers. Appreciate you stopping by. I'm Jason. For those of you who are just joining this channel, this is New Earth Health and Wellness, and I'm Jason Jones. For all of those that have already subscribed, we appreciate that. I appreciate that. If you like what you see here today, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And then there's a little bell. If you turn that on, you'll get notifications when my next video comes up. So today we're going to talk about some tips for a successful recovery from addiction. So I am a recovering addict, and I have some. I know that I'm not an expert on a lot of things, but one thing that I can confidently say is that I've become an expert on my own recovery. So that's important, and I just want to share some things that have helped me. So if you are in recovery yourself, or maybe you know somebody that's struggling, hopefully some of this will have value to you. I know before we get started, this has been a little bit difficult for me to do this video. I think mentally I had to put myself, back in that, how I felt at that time when I was early in recovery, so that was, basically from, the first day that I felt like I was, coming to and my brain was working again, up into, maybe the first year, that to me, that's early recovery. So, if you're in there, in that, anywhere in that area, first of all, good job, congratulations, keep it up. This is doable. It's going to take a little work though. So anyway, we'll get down to it. So the first thing, and these aren't really in any particular order, but the first thing I remember when I was thinking about this, reflecting, was, to slow down. So that's tip number one, would be just to slow it down. I remember early in recovery, it felt like life was just happening so fast. Like, when my brain finally started working again, I had a hard time keeping up and processing what was going on. It was overwhelming. All of a sudden I had these thoughts and these feelings and these emotions that I could typically control because I became very good when I was actively in addiction. I became very good at controlling, the pace at which I processed life. So, back then, if I was feeling anxious and things were moving too fast, well, I had something to correct that, so I would slow things down chemically. And conversely, if I was not feeling, peppy enough, there was things that can help there. So, just that first part of, just allowing it to unfold, and just understanding that it's happening quickly because, I hadn't dealt with it on life's terms. I hadn't dealt with life on life's terms, and I didn't know what that meant at the beginning of my recovery. But over time, I get it. It's like something bad happens and you feel a certain way, and you have to basically feel it, work through it. Whereas before, it was a quick fix. There was always a pill for that or whatever. So, my analogy there is, you hear a lot about the college football players that are great in college, college quarterbacks, and then they get to the NFL, and almost always, the first thing, their first interview is after their first NFL game. It's like, wow, that happened really fast. Like, the game's faster. It's hard for them to know where the defense is, and, they can't get the ball out of their hands fast enough. So that to me is kind of like early in recovery. You're a rookie QB, and you're getting your tail kicked, and it's hard to process the speed of life. I think it's something that people that haven't been in recovery take for granted because it's just part of their day. But especially early in recovery, slow it down, pump the brakes, kind of understand that there's going to be a wide variety of mood swings, and your emotions are going to swing wildly from one end of the spectrum to the other. I noticed that with myself. I think early on in my recovery, the world ended. In the first 90 days of recovery, the world ended 90 times. The world's not going to end. It's going to feel like maybe that it's going to end, but it's not. it's been going on without your interference forever, and it will continue to go on. So these little things that pop up, make sure you understand that going in, it's going to provoke a wide array of feelings and emotions. Which brings me to my next tip number 2, that worked for me, and it was journaling, and it helped me in a couple of different ways. But writing it down. So early in recovery, things are crazy. I don't know why I'm feeling the way I do, but I don't like it. And at that particular time, I couldn't change it, right? So I'm just sitting in this mud. So I had to write it down, and it turns out it's a great coping mechanism for me. I started to notice trends. And I even reflected back on my journal today before I got started with this video. So I keep it handy, so for me, it helped me identify trends in my moods, in my thoughts, my feelings. And then, I was able to look at it even, I think day 25 in recovery, I was still looking back to day 2 and 3. And I noticed that I was making progress. So like through journaling, I was able to see, because I wrote it down, I was able to see what I was thinking, what I was feeling, what I was going to do to process it. So, I think, my experience with journaling, there's some people that just absolutely, don't want to do it. They don't take the recovery seriously, and it shows, right? So I took mine seriously, and I'm still taking mine seriously every day. So write it down, read it, learn from it. I think the tip 3, the next most important thing, or another tip 3, I don't know which order I would put it in, but I know I started gaining knowledge of addiction. So addiction almost ended my life. Addiction negatively impacted my life to a degree that, still to this day, I have a hard time processing. I hurt a lot of people that I loved, the people closest to me. And so I really felt like I needed to know why, so I started learning about it, reading about it, watching videos, talking to other people that had gone through it. And what I realized there, it helped me understand maybe some of my behavior. And that's not to say that I use that as an excuse. Because at the end of the day, it was my behavior. So, and what I did, I can't take back. And there are going to be some people that will forgive me. Others won't. But the most important thing is that I forgive myself with that. So, and just try to do better today and the next day and the next day, be the best version of myself. So, but really what I started learning, when I started learning about addiction, I realized, I wasn't a bad person. I had done some things I wasn't proud of, but I wasn't a bad person. There was a rewiring that had taken place. And once I learned more about it, I think it helped me, to move forward and grow from it. So that was important. Just whatever book I could. I remember when I got home from treatment, went to the library, and for those of you that do know me, I wasn't the type to be at a library, and that was my bad because I thought I knew everything and I didn't. So went to the local library and start just picking out books, reading about it, reading about other people's personal experiences and what's worked for them. So that would be a great place to start if you're early in recovery. Tip number 4 would be really to create a strong support network if you don't already have one. I can't tell you how valuable that is. Addiction is a disease of isolation. So, if we allow ourselves to be isolated and sit in our own pity party, that's where addiction wants you. But, addiction wants you alone and scared and angry and resentful. So The support network is huge. So whether that is, going to meetings, which that meetings weren't my thing, I found my recovery in a gym. So wherever that is for you, get there, establish that support network. And obviously it doesn't have to be people that specialize in addiction. Maybe it's a sibling. For me, my sister helped me a lot. I knew that, in my wife, so in my children, and I still remember one day early in recovery where I had left the house and I was going to relapse. Things had gotten out of control. My state of mind was god awful, and my phone rang at that exact moment. And if I hadn't had that network, maybe I wouldn't have had that phone call that helped me. So make sure, you kind of put yourself out there and, just find somebody that you can really talk to. It's very important. Tip number 5, I call it fill in the toolbox, right? So, and fill in the toolbox with coping skills. For me, it was exercise, reading, meditation, going for a walk, calling a friend, watching a video, on YouTube, So that toolbox is important because there are going to be triggers, and I encourage you to read about triggers, and so you can maybe create awareness as to what triggers you personally, to start the process of relapse, because relapse is really a process. Your thinking changes. That affects the way you feel, and how you feel really dictates, in a large sense, how you behave and act. So, you know, being more aware of the triggers helped me tremendously, because now, I'm at a point now where I know, okay, I know what to expect from this situation. I know how that's going to impact me. I'm going to go into that situation, and I'm going to leave that situation feeling a certain way about myself. I stay out of the situation. So, encourage you to find that. Meditation is, a great way to, for me personally, to kind of slow things down, make better decisions. So I encourage you to do that. And lastly, tip number 6, I made a commitment early on in my recovery that if I found myself in a situation that was not conducive to being healthy mentally or physically, or would lead to relapse, that I would leave. And so just know, when you make that commitment, you may have to leave or not be in situations that will disappoint other people. And look, so if you're an active addict, chances are, along the way you've disappointed some people, including yourself. So now is the time to really understand that, in your recovery, there's a good chance you're going to disappoint some more people, but you need to almost be a little selfish. And I know that's easy to say. Well, it's not really easy to say. So as an addict, you're actually looked at as being selfish, because you're concerned with how you feel and it's all about you. And then when you get into recovery, what I just said was to be selfish again. And I understand how that may come across, but be selfish in the sense that if it's not right for you, or if it causes you harm, get out of it. Walk away, walk away, go do something else. If those people that don't, if the people that are disappointed at that time when you're making that decision, if they don't understand, then maybe you need to reevaluate, why they're there in the first place, because, it's all about getting through today sober or clean, not using. That's a win. That is a big win. So there you go. Those are just some tips. Hopefully they will help you, or maybe they'll help somebody that pass it on. But I appreciate you all joining me today. And as always, if you like what you see here, please hit like and subscribe. Turn on your notifications. And I'll be talking to you all soon. I hope you have a great day. Bye.